Next topic of discussion for you, and the one that selfishly and admittedly I was the most pumped to talk about, the expansion of the damn playoff. Open the floodgates. Right now we're at 28 teams, 4 super regions, 7 teams in each. Talk about the super regions in a second, the way they're being reworked this upcoming season. This system right now, we've seen displeasure is a nice way of saying it across the board from myself, admittedly as well, and I think from a lot of others, but new proposals seemingly can change that. I'll leave it up. I'm going to tee it off. I want you to take it from there. Talk to me about what we could see changing here when it comes to the D2 playoffs, the national scene.
Well, as you know, they got the cart a little before the horse by putting in place an AQ for every conference before the bracket was expanded. Now, I've been told that the promise from Indianapolis and the promise from the governance groups that will make this decision is that this will cause them to act, and we will finally get that expansion from 28 teams to 32 teams in the D2 football bracket. And that, I think it's great, again, for the fans. It'll set up 8 regions or 8 schools per region in the 4 different regions. It'll get rid of the first round bye.
Yes.
For one of the schools. So all teams will be playing the same number of playoff games to get to the championship. The way the seeding is done in Division II, where basically you're seeding the top 4, and right now 5, 6, 7 aren't seeded, so you have a little wiggle room on matchups. Now it would be 5, 6, 7, 8 aren't seeded, and I hope that lends itself to fewer and fewer first-round conference matchups.
Yes.
We have more flexibility now to avoid, Grand Valley and Ferris State or Missouri Western and Northwest Missouri having to play each other in the first round. So that's a benefit. But, yeah, I mean, Kobe, this is something, frankly, that should have been done 3 or 4 years ago.
Amen.
The money has been in the budget. The number of schools that sponsor football has justified this type of a bracket expansion. So it's been frustrating that it hasn't happened, but perhaps we're at a point where this can get approved and this can be implemented soon.
And we've seen the automatic bids, at multiple levels, the D3 level most notably, in that just about every conference at the D3 level, if you win your conference, you're in the dance. There's a lot of stuff that comes with that. And one of the biggest pieces is the very, very tough aspect of getting an at-large bid to the national playoffs. And when it comes to Division II, when you have a much smaller field, right now, currently, obviously, as it sits at 28, you're already having teams that are vying, really quality teams that are vying for those couple extra spots. You look at Super Region 3 just this last year, Saginaw Valley, Central Missouri, 2 teams that, in a lot of people's eyes, very deserving of going on to a playoff, especially at least a first round, even if it is an unfavorable matchup, very deserving of that spot. They're on the outside looking in. And now you've got this earned access rule that obviously has been taken into a place. Now you've got the automatic qualifier deal. It just feels like that margin of error, it goes back to the margin of error, is smaller and smaller and smaller. Not to put the cart even further ahead of the horse, is 32 enough?
No, it's not. But I'll tell you, with 32, I'm pretty confident that 2 teams that I saw match up in the Heritage Bowl last December, University of Central Missouri and Texas Permian Basin, that put on a heck of a show.
Absolutely.
In Corsicana, Texas. I think it was a double overtime game. You had the Harlan Hill winner for UCM, a big fourth quarter overtime to bring the Mules back. Those 2 teams would have been in the playoffs. And, so 32 gives us an opportunity to showcase 4 more deserving teams. But, Kobe, my big concern or problem is just the unevenness of the regional regional membership. I'm gonna make a bunch of people in the East that watch this mad, but the football in the Midwest and in the South is stronger than it is in the East in Division II football.
Hell yeah.
No question about it. And there are more deserving teams in the Midwest and the South that are being left out of the bracket. So, 32 teams will take it. Should be bigger. But really what I want to see is a change in the way that we bracket and the way that we select teams to be more in line with what Division III and FCS are doing in seeding teams and having at-larges that can come out of different regions. There's a better way to do this for us to make sure we've got a true national championship with the teams that have demonstrated during the year based on who they play, their strength of schedule, and that they deserve a spot in the playoffs. And hopefully we'll get to that point. But baby steps means we'll get to 32 and we'll appreciate that change.
Hell yeah. And it's all about those criteria that you talked about. I think the term that gets used very often is most deserving, right? We heard it just recently with Lamar and Josh Allen, who is most deserving of the MVP.
Right.
The very same conversation is happening in these rooms. And I think the FCS model is oftentimes referenced because of the outcome, the potential outcomes you can have where you have an NDSU and SDSU playing for it all. That is a really, really unique and neat deal because if those are the two most deserving teams, that ought to be the championship. Well, that's very black and white, but that's the way that it works. And I think your geographic point is interesting too because we've seen that across the board. The East and the Northeast has kind of just struggled historically, especially in recent history. At the D3 level, we've seen a bit of a resurgence there. You talk about Cortland and the run that they've been on. Endicott has seen some prominence at the D3 level, a Northeastern type squad. But the D2 level, right now, not talking in the grand scheme, right now, you're correct. Like, that is a factual statement. These regions are producing higher quality football teams based on every single one of those metrics that you just mentioned. So if we don't have a system that reflects our flexibility to incorporate them into our postseason, I say you're the one doing on this, man. I'm just going to talk about it. But you know how pumped up I get about this. This is an exciting deal.
Well, I can speak with confidence of the strength of the Midwest and the South.
Hell yeah.
Because the schools in the East don't want to come play us. And that's what the non-conference games in week 0 have opened up for the MIAA.
Yeah.
We've been able to go out and try to schedule whoever wants to play whenever you want to play. And, we've got some great games on the schedule this fall. If the MIAA goes out and these great matchups I've talked about and we go 0-12, we're not a very strong conference. Last year we went 16-3. Pitt State beat Ferris State, and then loses twice in our league. So let's make the East stronger and better, and let's find ways to bring them to Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and schedule some home and homes with some of the MIAA teams, and that'll settle that debate.